It's Stephanie from Janku, and today I'm going to show you how to make a YouTube thumbnail. So let's start off opening Inkscape, going to File, and we're going to go to Document Properties. In Document Properties, you want to go to the page and enter 1280 for the width and 720 for the height. These are dimensions that are best for uploading the thumbnail. That way it won't get distorted and everything will look just the way it should be. Alright, let's start here. So I've made a new thumbnail for the channel, and you can see it right here. It's a little deconstructed. I'm going to cover up the page with the rectangle, this gradient rectangle, and actually let's just start from scratch. Let's start with the rectangle. I'm going to take the square tool, I'm going to select the top corner, drag, hold all the way down, and then to achieve this gradient effect, I'm going to go to the fill and stroke window, going to select the flat color just to see which colors we'd like to start with. Oh, we're in the stroke paint, we want to be in the fill. Make sure the stroke paint window, we have X here for no paint. Let's go back to the fill, and I'm going to select this purplish color. Now let's go back here and go to linear gradient. The standard settings for the gradients is going from a solid color, and then it creates a transparency to no color. I want to keep color but have a transition to a different color. So what I'll do is I'm going to select the endpoint of this gradient line, and I'm going to select a different color, and I'm going to make it so that this is fully opaque. Let's change the color just a little bit more here. Alright, get that a little bit more of a pinkish color. Alright, so we have the background now of the thumbnail. I'm going to hit Control C on my Mac, and I'm going to hit Control V. I'm going to copy that, and I'm just going to go back here to the fill and stroke window. I'm going to select flat color, and I'm going to come up here to the width and the height. I'm going to lock this so it keeps proportions on the rectangle, and I'm going to lower this down a little bit. And I just want to make it a little bit smaller than the existing rectangle. There we go. Alright, now to make it perfectly centered on the existing rectangle, I'm going to select both the objects. I'm going to come to the Align and Distribute window, and I'm going to go here relative to the biggest object. What it's going to do is it's telling the program to align all the objects selected according to the largest object. So the largest object is this background rectangle, and I'm just going to select center on the vertical axis and center on the horizontal axis. So that will now perfectly sit right on that larger rectangle. Okay, let's go back now to the color. I'm going to replicate this thumbnail that I've designed, and so I'm just, instead of picking a different color, I am going to, let's see, I'm going to use the eyedropper tool, and I'm going to pick the color right here. Great. So the next step here, I wanted to incorporate the look of the Inkscape logo. So if I can just find it here, right here. What I did was I used it to trace. So let's raise this to the top. And I'm going to zoom in. Actually, first what I'll do is I'm going to hover it where I want it, right on the rectangle. So I only want this half of the Inkscape logo. I'm going to zoom in, and now I'm going to select the Bezier tool. I'm going to start from the center and I'm going to click, hold, and drag to make that nice curve. Click, hold, and drag again. And I'm just going to continue until I get all these curves. Don't worry too much about messing up and not tracing it exactly, because we can go back and edit the different nodes. So what I did here is I just connected it to the first node that was generated, and what it does is it shows that an object was created. Okay, so I'm going to go to the Edit Paths by Nodes tool, and now I can just click and drag on these lines and better fit the Inkscape logo. And I like to zoom in. You can get much more precise. I'm not going to go too much in detail for this tutorial. I just want to show more so designing a thumbnail and what things to consider when you are designing a thumbnail. All right. I think that's good enough for now. All right, so we have our outline of the Inkscape logo. I didn't copy these little drips here. Maybe I'll just go ahead and do that. Let's just quickly do that. So let's get the Bezier tool. I'm going to click, hold, and drag around the different corners. And I'm going to continue. And remember, to make it an object, to complete it, you have to hover your cursor over the original node and click down, and that'll complete the shape. So I'm just taking my Edit Nodes tool and I'm just playing around with the lines so they trace the PNG I have here a little better. Alright, now let's zoom out. I'm going to select the image and I'm just going to move it to see what we have, and it doesn't look too bad. If you find that there's some kind of pointy nodes, you can come up here to the Make Selected Nodes Auto Smooth, and it auto smooths. It makes it not as it doesn't have that defined point. So what it did was it actually made the curve come out. So the tool doesn't always work to your benefit, but sometimes it is handy. Just be aware that it will change the shapes of your object. Let's try that again. Okay, I think that'll be good enough. So the other thing we missed here actually was the top of the mountain. I'm just going to trace that quickly. Go with the Bezier tool. And we only did half of the mountain, so you might want to do this when you're tracing the whole mountain, just so you keep everything aligned. Okay, we got that. Let's see here. Alright, now I'm going to join these two objects. And then what I'll do is I'll combine let's try this as it is. So I'm going to color in this object. Make sure we select the right thing. And I'm going to select this color. I'm going to get rid of the stroke. So, actually, what I'd like to do is I'd also like to join it to these little droplets, because that'll be the same color. So I'm going to combine that as well. Alright, so we got that. Now, the next step here is this little trapezoid. So, I'm going to go over here with the Bezier tool. And I'm going to select somewhere close, but not too close, where I overshoot shadow the mountain. So let's click here, and then I'm going to click down here. Now I'm going to hold Control to maintain a pretty good line so it aligns with the rectangle here. Let me just make a larger one. Alright, let's try that again. I'm holding down Control. Just remember, I am using a Mac. This might be different on your PC. So I've created the trapezoid. I'm going to come over to the fill and stroke, the eyedropper. I'm going to use the current color. Again, remember, don't do this while you're on the stroke paint because it's doing that for the outline like I did here. What I'd like to do is do it for the fill. I'm going to get rid of that stroke. So now we have this part. If you notice, we can see the rectangle, which is not too bad. It's not a huge issue, but if we would like to fix it, we can either adjust the size of this light blue rectangle, or we can adjust the size of the trapezoid. Either one is fine. Okay. So we got that. Oh, we got this over here too. I'm going to extend the trapezoid on this side. Alright, great. Let's zoom out. Alright, so the other components of this thumbnail are these three little, I guess, the lines that are jutting out from the mountain. So what I did for this was I actually used the Bezier tool, and I just, that's a little too far up here, I just went somewhere, I aligned it with the rectangle. You can hold down Control to maintain that straight line, and I just made something like that. Let me zoom in so you can see that. And let's make the fill. Let me zoom out. Gonna make it the same fill as that one, so make sure you're in the fill window with the eyedropper. Gonna go back there. Gonna remove that stroke color. So that's what I did with that. So I'm going to make the three other lines. This one juts out. You'll notice I made this one jut out a little bit. It maxed out to the edge of the largest rectangle, so that's what I'm going to do on this one. I'm going to make it right there, and Control right there, and like that. So don't worry too much about overshadowing the mountain. We're going to use these layers. Well, they're not exactly layers. I guess they're where the object is in relation to the other objects within the layer. We're going to adjust that, so you're not going to see these rough edges. Let's go on and fill that in. I'm going to use the eyedropper. I'm going to select that color, and then I'll do the third one, and we're going to have it. Notice that sometimes if I start it in a way that I don't want it, and I don't want to continue the Bezier path, I just hit the escape key, and what that does is it allows me to start over. So let's just, and then end it right there, and then the fill is going to be this color. Actually, I might prefer these colors to be swapped. Let's try that. Let's try that. Okay. So we want to make sure that we're not seeing any of the background light blue square. I'm going to take my node selection tool, and I'm just going to edit these. And I don't think I removed the stroke on this, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Make sure there's no spaces between these different trapezoids. Alright, now let's adjust where the objects are in relation to each other. They should be under the mountain and this other dark blue trapezoid we created. So we're going to come up here and we're going to lower selection one step, not all the way to the bottom, because then it would be under this layer or this object and we don't want that. So let's just click and you'll see it's slowly going under, and that's perfect. That's where we'd like it. Alright, let's do the same with this shape. Alright, that looks good. And then let's do it with this shape. And that looks about right. Let's just take a look at our original here. Alright, looking good. Let's just make some final little tweaks. I'm going to take my node selection tool, edit that, and let's make this come out a little bit more. Alright, great. Alright, so we have that right now. Okay, so the other parts of this is now just the text. I have downloaded from Google Fonts. I found this really cool font that I really like. It's Manjari, if that's the right pronunciation. I just took this create and edit text tool. I put it right over here. I put it anywhere. You can put it anywhere you'd like, but I started how to create a thumbnail. And you can't see the text right now because I believe it is black fill. So we're going to change that. We're going to go to the fill and we're going to select white. And that is all different cases. That's not good. That's okay. I'm just going to go over to this Manjari font. Going to select the selection tool. I'm going to hold Control and drag one of those arrows to make the font larger but not misshape the font. So it's going to keep its integrity there. So yeah, you can add different text boxes. I can hit Control C and then Control V. That's copying and pasting, and I can create another line here. Oh, there is one other thing that I have not shown you, and that is the drop shadow. So I like to add a little drop shadow to this. What I do is I let's select this square here, or rectangle rather. We'll go to Filters and Shadows and Glows and Drop Shadow. And I'm just going to hit Live Preview. That looks exactly like what I want. I'm going to apply that. What else would we like? I think I'm going to also, I don't know if it's going to allow me. Okay, I'm going to select this trapezoid and I'm going to add a drop shadow to that as well. That looks good. And then looks like something changed here. I think I accidentally changed the color somehow. Let's put that back. Okay. Alright, and then these I gave some drop shadow as well. So I'm just going to select this and this. And I don't believe I'll need to select that. You're not going to see any drop shadow on this trapezoid. So let me go to Filters, Shadows and Glows, Drop Shadow, Live Preview, make sure it looks okay. That looks good, and I'm going to apply and close. And when you're done, you're going to have to go to Export PNG Image, and you can hit Shift Control E to get that. Make sure that you're selecting Page for export area. Otherwise, all these other selections. This is going to print out whatever you currently have selected. Drawing, I believe it selects everything. I'm not exactly sure, but make sure you have page, because it'll only print out what is on the page that you've created with those dimensions we talked about earlier. So once I've selected page, I'm going to, you can click this button and you can pick where you'd like to save it. I save it on the desktop, and I'm going to call it new thumbnail. And then I'm going to save. The tricky thing about that is it hasn't saved. It just set it up as a file to be saved. It will not be saved until you click export. Just remember that, because there's plenty of times where I've thought I've saved it and exported it and nothing happened, and that's because you have to select this button. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. You see a little window pop up and quickly disappear, and this is the new thumbnail. So thank you for tuning in. I hope that was very helpful for you. I welcome comments for better ways to create thumbnails, any suggestions or ideas. Please feel free to tune in every week on the Janku channel. We have new videos from our meetup. We have all sorts of talks that we do at different conferences, and we have Inkscape tutorials. So look forward to seeing you guys.